Welcome everybody to our webinar. My name is David Howard. I head up the marketing team here at BuzzBoard. In a second, I'm going to turn it over to Philip Cortez, who is going to lead the session today and the demonstration. He's also responsible for much of our training, learning, and development here at BuzzBoard. Just a little bit of housekeeping. We're happy to entertain questions. You can throw something in the chat if you like, or just speak up. We're not too strict and formal about those things. We are recording, so I'm happy to send you a copy of the recording afterwards. And we have copies of past webinars on our YouTube channel. Happy to help you connect with that if you like. If at the end of this, and I'll mention this again, at the end of this webinar, you're compelled to get your hands on our product and try it yourself, you can get to the website, www.buzzboard.ai. In the top right-hand corner, there's a free trial button. No credit card required. You just jump in, sign up for the trial, and we can also get the customer success team on a call with you as well to give you some guidance to get started. We're happy to do that for you. Today's topic, we're focused on how to use this data and this technology in BuzzBoard Ignite to retain and upsell existing customers. Contrast that with if you wanted to surface new leads to sell to. Today, we're talking about the notion and the use case where you have an existing book of business and you want to grow that book of business with them, or you just want to focus on retention and loyalty. So with that, I'll turn it over to Philip Cortez to lead the demo.
Thanks, David. I appreciate that. And yeah, retaining or expanding our clients. A lot of people, as David said, identifying the high quality prospects. BuzzBoard as a prospecting platform is phenomenal. It's often is the case is where people do think of BuzzBoard as a prospecting platform. There's so much more to BuzzBoard than that. And as we start talking about retention, okay, I mean, it's one thing to build the list, but we either inherit accounts, we prospect, and then we land an account and they sign on the dotted line, and that's always a great feeling. I'm going to go into this plastic surgery profile just to quickly show you, I think one of the easiest ways of retention when we want to continue to add value, because see, in previous calls, we've talked about adding immediate value to the initial meeting. And certainly the competitive report and some of BuzzBoard's assets, our other reports do that. But when we've got clients now, they're paid clients, they're on board. And I remember the days, David, when I was selling and let's say I inherited an account. Yeah. Well, what you would do then is you would introduce yourself. You would make that initial phone call and say, hey, it's Philip Cortez. My predecessor has left the business. I'll be taking over the account. It's a pleasure to work with you. And that's just, something that naturally happens. Unfortunately, what I would hear in return more than half the time was, well, I never heard from that person, right? Or am I going to hear more about you? Are you only going to want to call me when it's time to collect or sell me something or renew my contract, right? And that killed me. It was like a slow death inside every time somebody said that. And I just thought, wow, I've got some work to do, to repair some of this stuff, some of the damage and, rebuild some of these bridges. So a lot of the times our prospects or our clients, they don't re-sign with us. They start looking somewhere else. You'll give them any excuse, they'll take it to start looking somewhere else. And it could be price, it could be just lack of service, and it should never be that way. And so when I first started using BuzzBoard and I started getting good at it, with consistency, then the retention piece was something that was really, really strong. So I think from the get-go, this score out of 72, we can always regenerate this profile. We should always remember that, this profile here was generated on September 6th, or it was added on the 27th, but I regenerated it a few days back on September 6th so that I could get a brand new number. So regeneration, or the promise of the monitoring, right? When you came on board with me, you were a 72, but next quarter, as I regenerate and I come and visit you, or next month, or however the cadence is, this is our opportunity to show progression now, to continue showing value to our prospects. And let's just not forget what BuzzBoard's trying to do and what's making up that number. we are tapping into the key segments of that digital marketing spectrum via API. We're going out to all our data sources so that we can holistically look at a business from 0 to 100. That's what we do here at BuzzBoard. We score these businesses. So when it was added on August 27th, excuse me, they were at a certain number. And then, of course, when I regenerated on the 6th, that number may have changed. Maybe not significant, but over time, as this plastic surgery group continues to work with me, we're fulfilling everything that we promised to fulfill on that contract. Naturally, what we're going to do is we're going to see some growth in this area. So providing that value over time, nothing helps you retain and establish yourself as a consultant than when you're regenerating that profile. Now, what we also want to do is we want to go back to our competition piece. Because when we go back to the competition, then what happens is that we're able to give you that side-by-side comparison of what this prospect, the businesses that this prospect, the 72 here, Forsyth Plastic Surgery, now we know who they're looking over their shoulder at. This was something that was really of value to them initially when we got the appointment. I always recommend asking Forsyth who their top 3 competitors are. I say 3 because BuzzBoard gives you room for 3, but it's guaranteed now that when Forsyth answers my question and gives me their top 3 prospects, I am now 100% going to give them information they want to see, regardless of what the score is here. This is exactly what 72 wanted to see. And so over time, in the spirit of regeneration, well, we can regenerate this report too. And once we do that, then not only are we monitoring growth here, but we want to continue to keep tabs on those businesses that you're looking over your shoulder at, right? The businesses that are very important to you. How does that work? Well, it's just one click. And once you regenerate, I've seen people do this in QBRs. I've seen people do this monthly. I used to call this the Richard Drakes effect because there was a fellow named Richard Drakes in the UK who was using BuzzBoard. And he told me, hey, you know what I do is I like to print it out. I regenerate it every month. And I go buy a muffin or a coffee and I just pop in, as he says. I can't do his accent, but he says, I just pop in and I give him the latest and greatest. And what happens is that for the first few months, no change, no worries. You're growing here. These people are fine. I'll see you next time. Please let me know if I can be of service to you. And that's it. It's an in and out for him. But here's the cool thing, and this is how not only do we retain, but we grow, is that we see value here for us as well. And so the 69 or the 61 can easily be converted to a profile just by clicking like that. And once I do that, then we've added this 61 in the back end. We're going to run those numbers too. But I'm going to be able to say, hey, wait a minute. It's not just this in gray, in the light gray here that I'm really looking at. I'm actually looking at everybody, okay? Because in doing so, I've got their data as well. So what is stopping me from calling them and asking for their top 3 as well? So let's not forget, we are in the value business. We want to provide it, but boy, does it help us when we get that value back. And BuzzBoard's absolutely helping you do that because every time your prospect gives you those competitors, they just gave you up to 3 qualified leads, up to 3 and then some, because these guys are going to give me 3 potentially, and these guys are going to give me 3, and of course, on and on and on. And so I like to tell people, here's where we get to try and let this be the gift that keeps on giving. It's kind of like it never ends. It can snowball. It can go downhill for us in a really nice way if we leverage this correctly. So for both retention and growth, this competition piece is really a value. Okay. And Paul and Ty, I see Ty's note taker, but the Pauls, If you have any questions whatsoever, please, please do not hesitate to interrupt me or use the chat window. We'll take care of you as we move forward.
I have one quick question.
Sure.
This is Paul, by the way.
Hi, Paul. That was an easy one.
Is there a minimum size a company has to be in order to get this data?
No, not necessarily. If they have a URL, okay, a lot of the data is predicated on that URL, and I'll better illustrate that by going back to the summary. If they have that URL, then we're going to be able to start tracking trends to the site, estimated Google spends, are they hiring, what technologies are associated with that URL. And as we look at the digital marketing spectrum here, you'll see, reviews. So if that URL is associated with social media, obviously online directories, we're really looking at a lot of that information being predicated with that. So it could be a remote only business. And guess what? BuzzBoard will help you prospect for remote only businesses as well. People who don't have a brick and mortar, but if they've got that online presence, they're in the game. It doesn't matter if it's a solopreneur or if they've got 1,000 employees. If you've got a URL and you want to be found, be discovered, or make money with that URL, then you're in the game and it warrants a conversation with you.
Okay. And they have to provide, or through our own research, their key competitors, right? The system
No, not at all. Not at all. And so my rule of thumb is to try and get it from them, when I'm calling on them. And I think the reason why I like to do that is I like to get intel. I like to follow that up with say, oh, Salem, okay, how come? Why is that? Or I'll say something like, we've got a lot of data on businesses just like yours in this market, but I think it'd be a little bit more impactful if you told me who your top 3 competitors were, right? And now I'm getting the intel and building the trust at the same time. But people don't have to do it that way, right? I mean, all we have to do is just click on add competitor here. By default, we're going to go to search engine keyword search in the geography where the prospect is, and we're going to start pulling up businesses within that geography and that category. We're searching for cosmetic surgery here. Or, so there's a lot of different ways to skin this cat, but this piece here, this competition piece, that's the cat bringing us the knives. All right, making life a little bit easier. And just get that visual out of your head though, Paul. Okay, sorry, I didn't do that on it. Okay, so with that said, this report is one of my favorite features of BuzzBoard, and of course, prospecting this way as well is one of my favorite ways to prospect. When they give me their competitors, it's pretty awesome. So I do appreciate the fact that it's not a one conversation. We're working in the power of 4 here, up to 4 people that we're talking to now, and then some, because we're going to rinse and repeat our process. And of course, sales-based trainings is something that we definitely offer here at BuzzBoard at a much deeper level. This is a more of a high-end or high-level type of webinar, right? But once our partners sign up with us, we do one-on-ones, team trainings. It doesn't matter. I mean, the level of support that we want to provide you is second to none, in my opinion. All right. So, we know that we can regenerate this report. We can continue to monitor growth. And let's talk a little bit about the business overview report. And in fact, we've got a lot of great downloads here at BuzzBoard, these digital assets that are going to allow us to really, in my opinion, I think that some of these reports, including this business overview report, is going to allow us to not just retain, but it's going to allow us to really grow. And in a second, as I download this, and I had it preloaded, but that's okay, we've got it. Doesn't take too long. I like to do this in real time just to show you how quick BuzzBoard generates this in real time. Because when we start thinking about, oh my gosh, now I got to go to the marketing department, and now somebody's got to make this for me, and it's going to take a couple of days. Well, you know what? This one took a couple of seconds. And these can be customized for your look and feel, and of course your logo here on the bottom right. But in a matter of seconds, we have a business overview, a customer analysis, the SWOT analysis. What's the state of their digital, what's the digital state of that business? And we'll summarize that for you. And we'll keep on going. There's competition and product recommendations. So really quickly, I definitely want to point everybody's attention to customer analysis. This can be used both as retention and growth. Okay, let me focus a little bit on the growth. I remember in those days, my older days now, or younger days, when I was selling, a large majority of the time, we would look at a business, or I would look at a business, and I would ask them what worked for them. And of course, we had a great conversation. And when they came on board, we would put together a good proposal. But a lot of the times, what I wasn't doing was I wasn't always asking them or focusing on who their ideal customers were. Because see, I got used to the idea of trying to know as much as I could, but I never really focused on the customers, and that was a me problem. This solves that for a lot of people because see, this customer segmentation piece, and this is auto-generated in real time that you just saw, is allowing us to take the data from this business and now identify, because of the category that they're in, the likely customer segments that this business has. And in the old days, we would say, hey, tell me a little bit about your customers. I see homeowners or locals or aging populations, okay? Well, sometimes they're only focused on one. In fact, our prospects are used to just those proposals that are not as granular as they could probably be. This right here in seconds, when we generated this customer analysis, not only gave us 4 different segments, now we need to start thinking about 4 different value propositions that BuzzBoard is giving you. And if I've got 4 different value propositions for different types of customers, now I'm in the driver's seat because now I can ask, well, hey, listen, Paul, who's your ideal customer? And did you know that, this customer segment here could generate maybe 20% of revenue for you? Or what is the largest customer segment that really drives your business? And they might not know some of those answers. I mean, obviously they want to take on customers and they have an idea of who those customers are likely, but they could be missing something. And if I have the opportunity to look at different customers in this sense, well, then my original proposal could grow substantially if I wanted it to. And I might not be able to include every customer segment in my initial proposal, but when it comes to growth, we can always revisit this. Okay, we can always revisit a growing customer segment that we might be missing out on. Okay, and furthermore, and here's a little hack, let's just say that this customer only focused on locals or these 2 segments here. Well, guess what I'm going to do? I've got prospects here. And knowing what I know now, well, nothing's really stopping me from going to, Salem Plastic Surgery and saying, hey, listen, your competitor, they like focusing on this. This is what makes them tick. And this is now me being a consultant, not a seller. But I think we're really missing out on a nice opportunity here as we start to generate your plan of attack in this market and how you're going to win. Okay, because there's different customers for different businesses, right? And so this one right here for me is pretty huge. It's from a retention and a growth standpoint, because of course this is also a report that can be regenerated. Things change here over time. All right. And then we have our SWOT analysis. Now, we've talked about the SWOT analysis in the past as an immediate value piece. So let's just go back a little bit to, getting appointments in the first place. Well, what some people are doing, and I do recommend, is that, we know that this costs money. Businesses do spend money on this. Some businesses don't do it. They have a specific customer target in mind, and they have their business for that customer, and that's it, right? That's kind of what they do. They have an understanding of what the market looks like as far as their competitors go. But a lot of the times, especially some of these smaller businesses, they don't get into these types of weeds. They don't take the time to get a SWOT analysis or really get a good understanding of it. Okay, unless maybe they went to business school and this is like second nature to them. So the talk track here, when we're providing that immediate value, is, hey, it's fill up with the station or with the paper or whatever the business is. And, in doing some of this research as a service, I actually created a SWOT analysis for you, and I'm loving some of your strengths that you might not be capitalizing on to the fullest. I think you're sitting on a gold mine when it comes to certain things, and I'd love to talk to you about those. In addition, though, some of these threats in the marketplace, I'm not sure if you're aware of what some other people could be doing to grow their business as well, right? And when we start talking about threats, well, that's just a natural tie-in to something called competition, which is also in the BOR, the Business Overview Report. And of course, we spoke at length as to how this right here could really help us out. But when we start talking about threats, that's a good entryway for me saying, hey, listen, we have research on a lot of businesses, a lot of threats out there in the marketplace to your business, but let's zero that in. All right. Let's really talk about the ones that are most impactful to you if you gave me your top three. Okay. And then of course the value just starts rolling downhill from there. So that's a part of growth, the SWOT analysis, this BOR report in general is absolutely something that we definitely recommend that people start leveraging here at BuzzBoard. And again, we do provide more in-depth training on that. And then, this recommendations piece, lastly, and let me go to another profile here. The recommendations piece is something that I do like. If it's let's go back to Salem. Let's see if that one loaded in for me. When we start taking a look at some of these recommendations, this is putting us in the driver's seat in a different way as well, because now, what BuzzBoard's really doing, whether you want to share this upfront immediately or not, behind the scenes, based on the data, BuzzBoard is creating a product recommendations section here for us that we can totally download or copy to a clipboard. We can even edit this out. And, the good thing is that when you become our partner, what we do is we take your product set and we bake that into the learning language model, into the AI content itself. So instead of social media services, it could be Paul squared. I'm making that up, guys, for the call, but Paul squared social, social extension or something like that. It could be specific to you, and you would see that right there. And we would know beforehand that right off the bat, without having any conversations with them right now, they're prime for this product. And here's what we found. Okay. And here's the so what. All right. So without enhancing their social media presence, these are the implications. And so now what can we do? Well, yeah, we want to introduce this, right? And so we're going to do that for every product recommendation that BuzzBoard comes up with based on what we're finding with the data. Okay. With the insights. Any questions on that? Good deal.
No, not on my end.
Awesome. So yeah, I think this is kind of scratching the surface a little bit, but I think these are pretty much the main components as to what I would use right off the bat to help with retention, to help grow my customer base. I did mention that, a lot of the times we inherit these accounts, so we're going to make these phone calls anyway. It's all about value, though. For me, you can't grow a bit, your client base or retain clients unless they see value. And so I think the more we start utilizing these assets that are automatically generated within BuzzBoard, and then of course updated when we regenerate, if we don't do that, then we're really putting ourselves at risk of not providing the value that we really can. And this is going to help us maximize that value from our standpoint. And so, I started by saying that BuzzBoard is just awesome when it comes to prospecting, but boy, we've really beefed it up when it comes to client retention and customer growth as well.
Philip, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm new to your product. How robust is your data, and is this more set up for companies that are going B2C, or is it also working the B2B sectors?
It's working both sectors. And from a data robustness standpoint, we're looking at, David, how many, I don't know, I don't have the number offhand, but as far as our data sources go, we've got I think it's over 100 data sources per profile that we're looking at.
Yeah. So
Okay.
our data comes a couple ways. First, if they have like a URL, like their own website or like a Facebook, we're able to basically scrape the data and collect data there. But I think what Philip's referring to is something like 127 API connections to different sources that we pull in extra data on that. Like we have a source that gives us data on, like their Google advertising spend. We have like Nextdoor as a source where we pull in, if they have like a Nextdoor profile, we pull in data from there.
Yeah,
So
and I'm
robust.
I'm going into the prospect piece just to kind of show you how robust the database is. And then as we filter here, this will give you a really good understanding of what we're looking at from a robustness standpoint. I mean, if we're looking at 24 million plus businesses in the BuzzBoard database, then of course, from a category standpoint, we've got loads of categories, which is why we have this handy search bar here that we can quickly go to and identify categories. We can tell which ones have websites or not, the 12.3. And then from here, once we start looking at, say, technologies, we can look at who's on an ad server, affiliate advertising networks, who's using email providers or doing email marketing, all the way to social media marketing. I mean, there's just so many different ways of filtering our search, and this is speaking to a lot of the robustness that we offer at BuzzBoard. And David mentioned marketplaces. Well, here's just an example of the marketplaces that we're looking at for these businesses. So depending on what the data source is and what we're looking at, and this is going to give you a good idea of how robust this information really is across that digital marketing spectrum.
Okay.
And I'm happy to go a bit further with you, Paul. I mean, I know you're new to the product and you may not have seen the previous 2 videos. We do post them on YouTube, and we're more than happy to send you the first 2 that we had in this webinar series to give you that.
Yeah, Paul, if you're interested, I'd be happy to send you those 2 links on YouTube to those past videos.
Yeah, that would help. I got to
Sure.
do a little get caught up on the office.
Yeah, absolutely. I can do that for you. One thing I do want to add, Philip mentioned this about all of the, the coaching and training that's offered through customer success, which is Philip a part of. We also do, educational content as well. And I just want to, I can put the link in the website. And if you want the PDF without having to download it from the website, I'm happy to send that to everyone as well. But we just published a small ebook. It's about 15, 16 pages on consultative selling. And that consultative selling rubric, that's kind of one way to think about how to be that kind of trusted advisor. What Philip talked about, always adding value to the customer, right? You're more like a partner, not a salesperson. You're not calling them only when it's time to meet quota. You have to upsell them. So we're from customer success. We offer all the trainings, these webinars, a lot of the guidance. From the other parts of the company, right over here in marketing, we're always looking at what kind of publications, ebooks, guides can we provide for you as well. So like I said, if you want a copy of that PDF, I'm happy to send it to you. You can also download it from the website. It's in the resource section. Go to the website, resources, ebooks, it's in there.
Yeah, that would be great to read.
Sure.
Any other questions? Okay, well, I think we wanted to make this one short and sweet. We wanted to hit some key points here. Of course, there's value all over the place. I mean, it's not just value to your prospect as well. And just real quickly, and let me go back into, excuse me, the details of this plastic surgery group. I'm never afraid to tell people, 10 years ago when I came across BuzzBoard for the first time, my digital savviness was probably it was lacking. Let's just put it that way, right? But when it came to certain areas, like content analysis or anything like that, if I didn't know some of this stuff, then we could always come in, like privacy policy. We have these informational texts for a lot of these areas that we offer here at BuzzBoard, and just by clicking on that, this is allowing us to not only define what we're talking about, but we want to talk about the test. Why do we check for it? The how. And the more I started navigating and really looking at this, okay, then, that really helped increase my digital savviness. And in fact, what that also did in the spirit of growth was it helped me talk about other solutions I might not have wanted to talk or could talk about at the time. And it really started to bring a lot of things home for me, because now that I knew, oh, this is important, and what leads to that, or what can we do here at our company to fix that? Oh, we've got XYZ solution that we can sell. All right, well, then now I'm going to talk about that. And now I know the why behind it. I know the implications as to why we need a check mark there and not an X. And you can do that for every single piece in a BuzzBoard profile. And I think the more people start using that piece there, especially in areas that they might not know, then this is really important. I mean, this one right here, image size optimization, I think we should know that images have to be built for the web. They can't be large, can't slow your website down. Why do we check for that? How? Okay, we go through the Google API there. So it makes us a little bit more knowledgeable when we go in and have these digital centric conversations. And quite frankly, there are people out there who, are still a little shaky when it comes to having those conversations. So I think BuzzBoard also provides us that value as well. All right. So I guess with that said, I think we'll give everybody some time back. I know we blocked this off for about an hour, but we generally want to keep it short and sweet, limit, be respectful of people's times. David?
Yeah, thanks to everybody for joining. I will follow up with emails as promised. Again, if you want to get hands on the product, no obligation, no credit card, www.buzzboard.ai, free trial up in the top right. There's also a way to contact any one of us. Basically, we'll get you on a one-on-one meeting if you want to drill down into some more specifics. You just do the contact us or request a demo form. We'll pick that up and we'll schedule something with you. And as I said, this is recording. We'll get the recording up on our YouTube page as well, so you can watch it in the future. So thanks so much to everybody who joined.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.